right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our stream this morning. My name is Jason Arms, and I'm the president of FIRST RGV. We're a delivery partner for FIRST programs here in the Rio Grande Valley. Another great session of FIRST Robotics Competition workshops. Today, we are visited by the Iron Eagles 7621 out of Spring Branch here in Texas. They're going to talk to us today about the importance of Dean's List and Chairman's and how to win those awards. From what I've been told this morning, these amazing young women were candidates for some awards this last season. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to the Iron Eagles. Good morning, ladies.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vishali Baker.
My name is Monali Baker.
And we are both from Team 7621, the Iron Rangers. Today, we're going to do a little presentation about the Chairman's and Dean's List Awards.
I don't know. It worked just 2 seconds. There we go. So a little bit of history about us. Our rookie year was 2019, and we won the San Antonio district competition, which allowed us to go to state and then to Worlds. And at Worlds, we were the second pick on the second seeded alliance in the terrain division. Our second year was this past season, Infinite Recharge, and we won the Chairman's Award at the New Braunfels district event and had a student win the Dean's List at the New Braunfels district event.
So we're going to talk about the Chairman's Award first, and then we will go into the Dean's List Award and wrap up with some just awards tips in general. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat. And then at the end of the presentation, we will address as many as we can. So the Chairman's Award is the most prestigious award at FIRST. It honors the team that best represents a model for other teams to emulate and best embodies the mission of FIRST. It was created to keep the central focus of FIRST Robotics Competition on the ultimate goal of transforming the culture in ways that will inspire greater levels of respect and honor for science and technology, as well as encouraging more of today's youth to become science and technology leaders.
If you plan on submitting a Chairman's Award, you should review the FIRST Chairman's definitions. These definitions will become the base for your submission and if you don't follow them, they can call into question the accuracy of your submission. Your essay and executive summaries can make up the writing section of Chairman's. Your essay is up to 10,000 characters, and note characters, not words, because the essay includes spaces and punctuation. And the executive summaries are a series of short answer questions to help judges better understand your team. Then there's a 12-minute presentation that consists of exactly 7 minutes of talking and 5 minutes of question and answer. You can have up to 3 students presenting and 1 adult mentor to observe. You're not allowed to video record your presentation. Finally, there is a 3-minute video that is used as a tiebreaker and will be shown if you win the Chairman's Award at your event.
So why submit for the Chairman's Award? I know as a second-year team, a lot of veteran teams that we talked to and different people at FIRST Robotics told us it isn't worth submitting a Chairman's Award right off the bat, but we went ahead and did it anyways because it's a really good experience. It's a great way to keep documentation of your team's efforts, and you're creating a goal that is bigger than robots. I know in robotics, a lot of the time, we're always focused on that engineering component, but now by creating this chairman's component to your team, you always want to do something that's a little bit beyond robots, doing some sort of outreach. And of course, while winning should never be your first motivation, it is cool to compete for FIRST most prestigious award.
So in a chairman's presentation, judges want to see sustained outreach efforts. It's not a one and done type situation. They want to see that you're consistently spreading the words and the message of FIRST to your community. And if you start teams or different things or do different community outreach events, they want to see that you keep with those partnerships and you stick with them and that you don't just let them die off after a year or two, that you sustain them over a long period of time. They want to see that you represent the mission of FIRST and community involvement. For instance, the Iron Rangers use a nearby library for different business-related meetings. And after the library learned who we were and saw how well we were doing in these competitions, they offered us a partnership to teach STEM workshops over the summer and during different breaks. They want to see that you have good documentation and communicate your team's efforts.
So when planning for the Chairman's Award, you really want to start early in your season because it does take a full year of planning for outreach events and stuff before you can actually plan your submission. Always create goals that are quantifiable. So an example of a broad goal would be, I want to bring STEM to women in my community. Whereas a quantifiable goal would be something like, I want to start a 1-week robotics camp in the summer where we are teaching elementary age girls a little bit more about robotics and showing them that they can do it as well. You also want to formulate your team image and culture. A part of our imagery are the colors you see on this slide today, and then our little 3-gear logo. And part of our culture, I'd say one of our biggest components is having a team before self mentality, talking about, always thinking about what you can do for the team rather than what just benefits yourself. And creating those components of image and culture kind of shows more personality for your team and shows that you all work together well. You also want to have a documentation of everything. Documentation takes several forms. It can be images of events, it can be anecdotes or testimonials. You also want to have metrics like exactly how many people you served or who you worked with, but you always want to have several different types of documentation for each type of outreach event that you do.
You want to do your research, which basically means look at past Chairman's Award winners, how they won, what they wrote, and really get a deep understanding of what you need to do for your Chairman's Award. You want to make a plan that would consist of goals, not specifically just for chairmans, but goals overall. For instance, Iron Rangers had the goal of making sure that every school in our district had a robotics team. And that took a few years, but we had a plan and we stuck to it. You want to have mini deadlines. So
an example of some mini deadlines would be like we were mentioning earlier, we wanted to have a team in every school in our district, but of course you can't do that in 1 year. It requires sponsorships, it requires finding coaches and proper training. So we said, 1 year we want to have all of the elementary schools. 8 of our 18 elementary schools already had a team. So we said, okay, let's figure out what we need to do to get robotics teams in the other 10 elementary schools that we had. Again, we documented this process, how we worked with people at our school district, what training we helped find so that we can make sure that each team had a successful background to be able to leave their legacy. And then we created a story with this. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how to create your story later in this presentation, but essentially you want to talk about the things you do in your team and then why you did them, what gap you saw, and then how your team is providing something different.
You want to be consistent throughout your entire chairman's submission. If you have something that's really important in your essay, make sure that you include that in your executive summaries and your presentation. Ensure that everything matches the first definitions that we mentioned earlier. Like previously mentioned, if you don't follow these definitions, it could call into question the accuracy of your submission. And make it your own, where all teams aren't the same. You want to include your own team branding and maybe choose a theme to go along with it. For instance, the Ryan Rangers theme last year was a water theme. We first made a ripple, which was just in our school. Then we made a wave, which was in our community. And then we made a tsunami, which was in our district.
This is an example of the chairman's organization structure that we use when planning for the year. So examples number 1 and 2 would be examples of outreach events or notable achievements that you want to write in your essay, put in your presentation, and your video. So our examples would be starting our district robotics initiative and helping make sure that there's robotics teams in all the schools in our district. And another example would be the Buddy Project, which is a project that we have done with elementary schoolers to help them learn a bit more about the engineering process. With each of these examples, we want to make sure that we have them listed in the essay, the presentation, and the video. And under the essay section, we also talk about additional short answer questions in the executive summaries that might be able to include these points as well. By using this planning system, you're able to make sure that all of your key points are going to be presented in everything that you do.
When you do chairman submissions, you really want to see all the first opportunities and outreach that the team has done. You want to take advantage of any and all first opportunities, such as workshops, different camps, and you want to really expand your knowledge. You want to make sure that your team outreach is sustained and it's not a one and done type thing. You want to build on those programs. For instance, we have a standing partnership with a Music in the Park where we go and we do a different activity every month. And you obviously want to get your name out there, so you would want to do it in local, regional, and international if possible. And then you want to evaluate your team's strengths and the need in the community. For examples of this would be if you start or mentor teams in your feeder pattern, then you want to keep that sustained throughout and make sure that you go back and mentor them. You want to do different workshops, and you want to include different STEM programs in your community.
So when you're creating a culture of the Chairman's Award on your team, it is a team culture thing because you need to have everyone involved in the process, even if they're not directly involved with creating something for the awards. So within your team, you want to plan to work on the Chairman's Award. Be prepared to take on that little bit of extra workload, and then create your programs as a whole team. So no matter what subdivision you might work in, electrical, mechanical, marketing, you want to make sure that everyone is playing an active part in creating these programs. Prioritize sustaining your programs as well. So for instance, you might have someone in marketing help getting the word out about a robotics camp you're starting, but you're probably going to want someone in a mechanical division to be working on the actual teaching portion of this. And you want to make sure that you're training your younger generations of students to go ahead and take over these programs once you leave, because we're all going to graduate high school at one point, and we want to make sure that we're still leaving a legacy and creating these programs to continue on long after we graduate. We also have some teams create this as a requirement or a reward. I know on the Iron Rangers, each member is required to attend one outreach event, and our officers attend at least 75% of our outreach events. And then our student leaders and mentors should be promoting a positive chairman's culture. Even if you're not directly involved with writing the Chairman's Award, presenting it, or creating the video, there is still a part that you have to play for this award, and you always want to be positive about it, and you always want to see everything your team is doing in that light.
So the main writing section is the essay. And in your essay, you want to make it creative, make it your own. Don't make it formulaic or follow a template or try to follow another team's outline. You really want to show your personality, and you want to define your team by using facts from your team. If you have a wide diversity from a wide range of ethnicities, include that. That's something really unique. If you have more women in your engineering program, include it. You want to highlight your team's strengths. And because the essay is the judge's base for who should win the award.
So your essay is 10,000 characters, including spaces and punctuation. And one of the biggest things you want to make sure is that it has an organic flow. So you want to make sure one topic flows to the next. Within your essay, you want to be including clear facts and quantified accomplishments within context. One example of this would be, we started the Buddy Project at one elementary school as a test run for how the activity would run. At this elementary school, we had 35 fourth and fifth graders create buddies and then tell us about their experience. This is a quantified fact, this is a clear fact, and this is our first accomplishment in the Buddy Project that we did. We also include quotes and testimonials in the essay if they're relevant. So if you did an outreach activity and you have a quote from a fifth grader or sixth grader who talked about what they enjoyed, you can include those to kind of show how you're creating that impact in your community. Focus on a quantifiable goal, not a broad dream. So like I mentioned earlier, a broad dream is, I want to bring STEM to women in my community. A quantifiable goal is, I want to have a STEM camp for an elementary school aged girl to be able to come and see that they can participate in robotics as well. Utilize the executive summaries as well. The executive summaries are a really big part of the writing portion of the Chairman's Award, and you're able to go more into depth of specific outreach activities you do in these executive summaries. So go through each topic that you have, that you're presented with, and really think about what you have done to fit that. And if you think that there's nothing you've done to fit that this year, It's still early on in the year. Start to plan something that you can create that's sustainable for the next few years that will come and help fit that niche in that executive summary. Big things are proofread, proofread, proofread. Get that essay and get your executive summaries in front of as many people as possible. Ask mentors, ask students, ask writing teachers at your school. You want to make sure that everything sounds good, that it has an organic flow, and that you're really telling a story and that you can see your team's personality in everything that you write. And then don't wait to the last minute. Starting everything earlier is always going to be better, because the earlier you start, the more time you have to make it better and better. And you're going to want to write several drafts of both the essay and the executive summaries.
So the presentation requires a successful written submission. And what that means is you have to submit your written portion before you can do your presentation. Like previously mentioned, the presentation consists of 12 minutes, which is 7 minutes of talking, and it isn't exact because some judges will cut you off mid-sentence once you hit 7 minutes, and then there is a 5-minute question and answer session after. You can have up to 3 students in the room presenting, though we suggest 2, because if you have 3 in 7 minutes, it can get a little wordy or it can get kind of crowded. And you can have one silent adult observer. They cannot video record, but they're there to give feedback after you leave the room. You want to bring a chairman's feedback form. And what that basically is you hand that to the judges and they'll write down what you did well and what you should work on. And it's really great because to get it from a judge's standpoint, the feedback can be invaluable. Then the times that you present are randomly assigned, but you can switch them on competition day. You can ask another team and switch times, but you have to bring that to the awareness of a judge. And the judges do want to see you do well. They're not there trying to be overly critical. They want to see that you're enjoying FIRST and having fun. So don't put a lot of pressure on yourself and think if I mess up, it's the be all end all. You just relax, have a smile, and roll with it.
Some big key points for your presentation is you want to make it memorable. There's no such thing as a perfect chairman's team that has the exact formula. There's no formula to winning this award. So what you really want to do is show the judges your team's personality and make it something that they're going to think about. Know everything about your written submission because judges will be asking questions about it during the Q&A session. In that Q&A session is 5 minutes, and you can't really quite gauge how long a 5-minute session is. If they do cut you off, don't worry about it. It just means time is called. Be prepared. Practice makes perfect. So practice this presentation as many times as you can. We did our presentation, practiced it about at least once per team meeting. Typically, we did it 2 to 3 times. And then we also presented in front of other team members, our booster club, and we just try to present to as many different people as possible to get those different perspectives. In your presentation, you want to provide a summary of key facts that you had in your written submission. So what are the things that you think deserve highlighting the most? Make sure that those are mentioned in your presentation. Be confident and feed off of one another. You want to make sure that you're matching one another's energies within the presentation itself. So as you're talking, keep your energy up, smile, and make sure that your partner is doing that as well. You want to build on your written submission and use personal stories in the question and answer section. So let's say that one person had a great, really cool special experience with one of your outreach events. Make sure that they're talking about that because those things are what make it very personable and what make it so much more of a real impact. I know in writing, it's like, cool, you did all these things, but when you talk about it and you see the passion for what your team is doing, it really just brings a whole new level to your presentation. You also want to have auditions for the presenting team. This is one thing that we did just to really see how our team worked together. You want to pick 2 to 3 people that match each other's energies, that have a good chemistry. So when they're talking to one another, they all seem very comfortable in the room as well.
You also want to tell your story in the presentation. You want to make it personable and make sure that you show your team's personality. You Also want to communicate clearly. You don't want to talk really, really, really fast and then talk really slowly and fluctuate between the two. You want to make sure that you use your voice as well, but communicate clearly in using your voice. Play up each other's strengths. So if one person is better at giving hard fact and one person is better about giving examples on those facts, have one person say the fact and then have the other person give the example and play off each other. It'll really lighten the mood and it'll show your team chemistry. Make sure you're talking at a consistent pace as well. It'll help to your communication, and you also want to make sure that you go straight to the point. You don't beat around the bush. You want to stay under the time limit, so we recommend practicing for your time to be at 6 minutes and 30 seconds to 6 minutes and 45 seconds, just so you have that little bit of extra wiggle room in case something happens. You do want to practice the question and answer session with your team or mentors. So the Iron Rangers gave our presentation to our team and mentors, and they gave us questions that they thought maybe the judges would ask as well. And the main one thing I cannot stress enough is practice, practice, practice. It's never going to be, you're never going to have the same presentation twice. You can have a general ballpark, but words change slightly between presentations. So the more you practice, the more you'll understand it and the more it's going to flow.
The last part of your chairman's submission is the video. The video is 1 to 3 minutes long, and you may or may not use it as a part of the presentation. We personally did not use our chairman's video in our presentation, and I know some teams that have, and they've been very successful as well. Do keep in mind, if you do present your video, that you are cutting into the 7 minutes of time that you can talk. So you have to gauge whether or not that video is going to add something to your presentation. It explains the team's efforts with visuals. So I was mentioning earlier that there are several different types of documentation. While you've been using hard facts in your essays, testimonials in your presentation, this is where you show the photos of everything you've done. So show those pictures of you working with elementary school or middle schoolers. Show those pictures of you going to an outreach event, all of those different things. Make sure you meet the video requirements. I know one of the biggest things that people need to look at when they're doing the video is make sure that there's no music copyright issues there, and include a video consent form. The video consent form can be found in the chairman's resources on the FIRST website, and you need this so that FIRST can use your video for their materials if you were to win. So you always want to make sure you have that filled out. Inappropriate videos will disqualify you, things that don't match chairman. So while it is not part of judging, not having a appropriate video can disqualify you, so you still need to take the video seriously. They will be reviewed to determine the final winner. So as we mentioned earlier, if there are two teams that are really similar, a lot of times the judges are using this video as a bit of a tiebreaker. And the video will be displayed if you win. That's another reason why you want to make it good, because if you win the chairman's award at your district event or at district championships or at world championships, they're going to be displaying your video.
Printed materials you're allowed to bring into the presentation. They are optional to give the judges, but you should put them in a binder or folder or something of the like. You want to have a consistent message in them and make sure that they highlight your team. And things we would suggest putting in there if you plan to give the judges a packet is a business plan, outreach information such as testimonials, the numbers of who you reached, and all the documentation from all outreach efforts.
One note for the printed materials is this year documentation is required as proof of what you have done. So, letters from, if you helped a team, letters from that team saying, hey, this person assisted us, or this person started our team, this team. You need that documentation in order to be eligible as proof of what you're saying you have done throughout the year. You also, a lot of the times, teams bring in other materials such as their technical binders, business plans, stuff like that, especially because a lot of chairman's teams are well-rounded. So they're typically in the running for multiple awards, not just this one. So really focus on making sure that your team is well-rounded and is able to do strong technical sides and strong non-technical things. In order for your whole team to prepare, you want to have activities for pit interviews. One of the coolest activities that I had seen was a team had to earn getting the button. So going to a team to a pit in the to a team in the pit, you know that buttons are always like one of the biggest parts of FRC culture. You want to go collect one. And what this team had done is they said, okay, let me tell you a little bit about us. Let me tell you what makes us special. And then in return for that, I'm going to give you a button. And that was a really cool way to engage with several different people at the competition. You also want to present to your team when you're preparing for the presentation. So, ask your team. I said earlier, we mentioned our team. We presented to our booster club. We presented to mentors. I'm pretty sure we presented to some of our school administration as well. All students should memorize key points, whether you're part of the chairman's team or not. Everyone knows there are 2 or 3 things that you just have to mention. And so those things, you want everyone on your team to know that way. In case the judge is talking to that team member can still say, A, B, and C are really cool. This is what our team does. Use anecdotes. That's one reason why we say every Iron Ranger needs to attend one outreach event, because every Iron Ranger now has a personal story from that outreach event. So when you're talking to a judge, you say, hey, we did this cool thing called Music in the Park. Let me tell you about this kid I did the buddy project with while I was there. You want to embrace your team culture and your image. We say when you're wearing your 3 gears, you can see our 3 gears on our polos today. When you wear your 3 gears, you represent the Iron Rangers. And, have those cool little facts. Did you know our 3 gears are actually representation of the 3 middle schools that come up and join our high school? And you see them working together in the way that the gears are intertwined, because that's what our team does. You also have to embrace the culture. We say team before self mentality. How can I help the team? So while you're at competition, always talk about doing that. Be on your best behavior, whether you're part of the chairman's team or not, because if a judge sees you not acting like a gracious professional during competition, they will disqualify you from the award. At the 2019 states, some of the teams were cheering when one of our teams got disqualified during a match. So a team got disqualified and a couple teams were cheering this on, and it was not sportsmanlike behavior. And the judges actually didn't give that team the chairman's award because they were not being professional during competition. So it's a big deal, and you want to make sure that you're always acting appropriately, whether you're wearing your team shirt or not. Smile and have some fun. I know it is a competition, and we do all have those stressful robotics moments. We've all been through it. But remember, FIRST Robotics is a fun thing, and you should enjoy doing outreach events. You should enjoy making an impact in your community. So when you're talking about it, be passionate and enjoy what you're doing. So that concludes the chairman's portion of our presentation. We're now going to move on to the Dean's List Award.
In an effort to recognize the leadership and dedication of FIRST's most outstanding secondary schools, the Kamen family sponsors awards for selected 10th or 11th grade students known as the FIRST Robotics Competition and the FIRST Tech Challenge FIRST Dean's List Award. So Dean's List at a glance is an essay of up to 4,000 characters, including spaces. This essay is written by the mentors. So you want to make sure that you always are creating those experiences with your mentors, that your mentors really understand who you are. Your essay, you also have to have a 200-character little excerpt describing academic excellence. So if you take advanced classes or if you did really good on a test score, you want to make sure that you have that mentioned in your 200 characters. There is a 5 to 7 minute individual interview with the Dean's List nominee. And there is some other identifying information that you have to submit when you're submitting for your nominees. I know they asked for a photo and a couple demographic things. So why submit a Dean's List? I know if your team is anything like ours, we have a very big team before self mentality. Everything that we win as a team. If we lose as a team. So this award really highlights those student leaders. It shows their commitment and their effort. It's great for college applications and resumes. And again, it recognizes the individual efforts of students on your team that go above and beyond what your team already asks of them.
So these are the criteria that FIRST asks for when they ask you to submit your Dean's List nominees. They want students who demonstrate leadership and commitment to the FIRST core values. They want to see effectiveness and increasing awareness at FIRST in your school and community. Interest and passion for a long-term commitment to FIRST, so a commitment that goes beyond high school.
They also want to see an overall individual contribution to their team, technical expertise and passion, entrepreneurship and creativity, and the ability to motivate and lead fellow team members.
So when you're beginning your Dean's List award process, the first thing you have to do is nominate the 2 students that best fit the criteria. So when you're going through your list of students, you want to include feedback from mentors, coaches, and students. These students must be sophomores or juniors in high school. So gather that group of students and talk about the strengths of each one and who is best meeting the criteria that we had just mentioned. You want to then begin finding examples of the student's history with FIRST. So, you want to look back into their beginning of their starting in the FIRST program and what FIRST has done to help them and what they have done to help FIRST, that relationship between the student and robotics.
This is an example of how we had Dean's List prepared. The nominees would choose 1 or 2 examples they thought best represented them and gave them to mentors and coaches and other students, so everyone could see what events that they had done to pick their 2 nominees. And then from there, they used those examples and showed how they would use them in their essay, and then showed how they could answer interview questions with those examples or what different questions might be asked from those examples.
The essay is 4,000 characters, including spaces and punctuation, and the essay should tell a story. So I know in our essay, we started with, for the essay that my mentors wrote for me, we started with my beginnings in FIRST Robotics. I was one of the founders of my team. I was the first captain of my team as well. And so those were the beginnings of my essay. And then we went on about the different experiences I had within FIRST Robotics. The essay should tell a story, and that's why I like to start with your history, because it tells a story from then until now, what you've done with FIRST and all of those different things that make you unique. You want to have quantified accomplishments. Some of the examples we used in my essay were, quantified accomplishments of I was recognized as a leader, so out of the 8 founders on the team, I was appointed the captain the following year. I started a nonprofit organization that brings robotics programs to students with disabilities. Those quantified accomplishments that then went into my essay, and then they also became key points later for my interview. You want your mentors to have anecdotes and quotes within the essay because, again, this is an essay that they are writing. So while you're working with them, one thing we did is we asked our mentors and our coaches, previous coaches and current coaches, tell me a little bit about this Dean's List nominee. What can you say about them? And we saved what they had said and used those little stories or quotes that they had within the essay itself. This essay, like the chairman's written submission, you want to proofread, and start it early because you want to get it in front of as many eyes as possible. Ask mentors, again, we asked some writing teachers at our school to help us out to make sure that everything flowed and it really made sense and that we were displaying both of our nominees in the best light.
For the interview, you want to make it memorable and show your personality. There's really no perfect Dean's List nominee. So you want to show why you were nominated. You need to know everything that was in your written submission because they will ask you questions about it. And you want to be prepared. Practice makes perfect. Go and look up different or previous questions that were asked and ask other Dean's List finalists or nominees what questions they got or how they prepared. It doesn't hurt to be over-prepared. And judges will ask you about what they read in your essay. We cannot stress that enough. You have to know your essay to know and have an idea what the judges will ask you about.
So on the student's part to prepare for a Dean's List interview is first up, do mock interviews. Do mock interviews. Did I forget to mention, do a mock interview? And it doesn't have to be 5 to 7 minutes. If you're practicing off of a list of Dean's List questions, there are several resources of just comprehensive list of questions people have been asked. Maybe there are a few on there that you had trouble with. I think my mom is sick of me asking me to ask her to tell me about myself because I had the hardest time answering that question. And so on the car ride to a robotics meeting, on the car ride from a robotics meeting, on the car ride to go get groceries at HEB, it was, hey, mom, ask me to tell me about myself so that I can practice this one question and make sure I got it. You want to memorize key points to discuss. So as I mentioned before, I had two major key points in my essay. I talked about being the captain of my team and starting my nonprofit organization. And those key points I had so that I could use them within my essay. So then while I'm within my interview. So it was mentioned in my essay. And then when the judge asked me a question, I was able to say, oh, I can weave in this cool thing I did here in this section. During competition, of course, you want to be on your best behavior. Similar to the Chairman's Award, your Dean's List judges will be walking around competition. And if you did your job and made yourself memorable during the interview, they're going to know who you are. So you always want to be graciously professional because if you're not acting with sportsmanlike conduct, you're probably not going to get the Dean's List Award. Part of being a Dean's List candidate is being an ideal first student. And then, of course, relax and be proud of all that you have accomplished. No matter the outcome, whether or not you win the Dean's List Award, you should be proud of the fact that your team recognizes you as one of the key leaders, and that is something to always be proud of. So that concludes the Dean's List portion of our workshop today. We're going to go over some final awards tips now.
So for student leadership, do not do everything on your own. I know sometimes you might think, oh, well, there's these 5 grants, and even if I split the work amongst everyone, maybe they won't do it up to the standards that I will, so I'm going to do it all. Trust your team. Trust your coaches and mentors. You
can't do everything on your team. It's very difficult, and especially with these awards, it's going to take way too much time and too much energy. So go ahead and delegate, and then, be patient with your team. If someone on your team is having difficulties, especially when you have your underclassmen that you're training, be patient with them and give them constructive criticism and feedback. We did this thing really, really well, but we need to work on this thing. So I'm going to help guide you, and we're going to get you to this level now because you're here and we're going to get you here. And being constructive and patient is going to help your team.
You also want to trust your coach and mentors. They've been doing this far longer than you have, and they have really valuable information. Your coaches and mentors aren't there to try to tear you down or try to say, no, that idea is bad for these and these reasons. And they're not trying to be rude. They're trying to help you become a better team and become better people. And you want to know that your each individual's strengths and weaknesses and provide one-on-one feedback. If you have 2 people, one person that's really good with engineering and mechanics and one person that's really good in awards, have them speak about their strengths to help each other with their weaknesses. And provide affirmations of good work. I know there's days where you have really, really long robotics meetings and everyone is getting frustrated and tired. Make sure that you're, as a student leader, you're there not only to lead, but to be a motivator and tell everyone, y'all are doing great work. Keep it up. You got this. Remember that everyone is doing their best. No one's trying to sabotage the team. And especially if they have that team for self mentality.
For your mentors, you want to ensure that the students are understanding their roles and you want to be a motivator. So if you have a team captain, making sure they're stepping into that role. If you have a team presenter, making sure that they're presenting well, and you want to motivate students. Practice the Q&A with your students. As a mentor, you probably know the students better than a lot of other people on the team, especially if you work with them closely. And you also understand FIRST Robotics very well. So you're an ideal person to practice the question and answer. Help the students succeed. So never do the work for a student, but rather work with them, especially in the chairman section, work with them to create top quality awards products. Be adaptable and help adjust things to best suit students. I know a lot of the times if you've done things one way for a really long time, it's hard for a student to change tracks. But as a mentor, you can step in and say, why don't we change one or two things here and tweak this to make it even better? Practices will be long. We've all had those meetings, but include some breaks as well. So if we're working for 30 minutes straight or 45 minutes straight and everyone's getting a little antsy, maybe include a 5 or 10 minute break and include some humor, have some humor. So I know one thing our team did is, we had been working for almost an hour. We had a kid play some music and we were dancing in the hallway, like had a straight dance party for 10 minutes. And I'm pretty sure the custodians thought we were crazy, but it was this great team bonding activity and it really lightened the mood and helped us get motivated to get back into work when we were starting again. Students look up to you as a mentor. You're going to be almost as a friend to them as you are someone who's teaching them. So be willing to offer help or give advice. And especially if you're a FIRST alumni, you've been in that student spot, juggling school and FIRST Robotics and any other extracurricular activities. So kind of help the students out.
Some final awards tips for any awards you have. Make sure you read the rules. A lot of teams, they think they know what they're doing and they don't necessarily read the rules, and then they'll break one that was offhand mentioned in another thing, and then they might get disqualified because of that. The rules are going to help you form your submissions, and they'll help you understand what you need to do better. Don't copy another team's style. Adapt it to your own team. You do your research and you look at other team submissions, don't copy don't use their template, don't copy their style of writing. Make it your own. Adapt it to your team. You want to make sure your personality shows through, not another team's. And focus on your team's goals. It's not an individual race. It's your entire team succeeds or fails together. Do what you say and document it. If you say you're going to have a robotics team at every school in your district by 2 years in the 2 years, like if we didn't have teams and you want to have it in 2 years, make sure that you have it and that you document that you did it. Pay attention to your feedback and improve. Your feedback, the people giving you feedback aren't trying to tear you down, or they're not trying to be rude. They're trying to help you improve upon yourself and know who you are and tell that story.
Yeah, so know who you are as a team, and then in Dean's List, know who you are as a person. As we mentioned earlier, there's no perfect chairman's team and there's no perfect candidate. There's no fast track to the award. So when you're in a Dean's List interview, say, this is who I am and I'm showing you my personality because that's why I was nominated. If you're doing chairman's, this is why you should pick me for the chairman's award. We did all these things and we're this cool team and we worked so well together. Like really display that. And don't ever submit with the intent of winning because A, you're setting yourself up for disappointment if you lose, and B, you're not going to have as strong of a submission if you're submitting with the intent to win. A lot of the times you're going to be so focused on these facts and hitting all of these points, you're going to forget to show personality. As I mentioned earlier, we're a second-year team. Winning of the Chairman's Award is not common in the second-year team. And we didn't do it because we wanted to win. We did it because we wanted experience. We wanted to create those goals and have that outreach and make that impact in our community. And then we said, why don't we submit a Chairman's Award so that we understand the process better? And then we may not win it this year, but now I can train the next generation of Iron Rangers to submit even better awards than what I did. So then when we're up to chairman's par, we can definitely go win the award in the future then. Always look at that. So, winning for us was a shock, but I really think that it was because we didn't think about winning the entire time we did it. We just thought about it. We thought about chairman's as this other thing that we're going to do, and it's going to be super cool. And our whole team is involved, and we were all just really excited and passionate about what we were doing. These are some resources that we have found useful. If you would like to see our Dean's List essays, practice mock interviews with any of our past candidates, or see our written submissions or presentations for the Chairman's Award, please email us at svhsironrangers@gmail.com. We also listed some great team resources here, especially for chairmans. Exploding Bacon, actually, it was their process that we had first learned about and used. So if you saw some similarities between the two presentations, if you've seen Exploding Bacons, it's because their process is tried and true, and they have a really good resource on how to prepare for a chairman's award. Simbot Seminars has a great chairman's video, and Team Rush has like a whole book of just things that they write about how to have a successful first team, and they happen to have great Dean's List and Sherman resources as part of that. There are resources for First Dean's List and First Chairman's on the FIRST Robotics website. And First Chairman's resources include the feedback form you want to bring to presentations, the video consent form that you need, and they also include the definitions that you have to follow. So make sure that you look up all of those and that you're understanding each definition before you start your Chairman's Award. You also want to maybe check Chief Delphi. I know a lot of key threads on there have practice mock interview questions. They have different resources for how other teams set up their chairman's and dean's list processes. So of course you want to look at those if you need any extra assistance. And that concludes our workshop today. So thank you. And we're now open for questions.
All right.
So I'm gonna
Ladies,
unmute.
yeah,
Sorry.
Mike, I'm going to jump in there real quick. Ladies, I just want to say that was amazing. It's great, even cross-program information. For the Rio Grande Valley, I actually do the Dean's List interviews down here, and you guys were spot on 100% about what's important in when you're submitting that Dean's List nomination. So we're also joined in here with a first senior mentor. Mike, you've got so much experience. I don't even know how many years you've been with First, but Mike has been very instrumental in organizing these discussions. And so we're going to get Mike to come in and do a couple questions for the Iron Rangers. And I wanted to apologize to everybody that's watching. Our live chat, for some reason, did not work on this event. But if you do have questions, please email the Iron Rangers directly. If you did not catch their email, we will put it in the description of this video once we're done here today. So you can reach out to them directly. And if all else fails, you can always email Mike or myself, and we will get those questions out to them as well. So, Mr. Henry, what kind of questions do you have for the Iron Rangers?
I do see some questions in the chat from Mr. Henry.
Oh, here we
The
go.
first one I see is how are you going to prepare to do chairman's and dean's list this season with all of your unknowns? That's a great question, especially with everything that's been going on. Chairman's and dean's list, we were talking just the other day with our team. Dean's list is something that we talk about the student who goes above and beyond. So preparing for dean's list, especially in this unprecedented time, it's going to be talking about what sophomores and juniors on our team are going above and beyond to try to figure out different solutions to problems we're faced with. You know, you're faced with problems in recruitment if you're doing online schooling. You're faced with problems and you can't meet in person. So how are you going to do certain things that you would typically do, you know, together in a room? So those students who really step up and try to find solutions and take leadership, that's how we're going to be doing Dean's List. In Chairman's, we are going to be kind of talking about what can we do virtually outreach wise. So I know I mentioned our buddy project earlier. We made it something that can be done with commonly found recyclable materials. So that is an at-home learning opportunity we created in response to the fact that we had this pandemic. So it was originally going to be an activity to do in person, and now it's something that kids are doing at home and then just talking to us about it and sending it to us.
So another question that I see here is how many team members would you suggest to be on your awards committee? I don't think there's really a specific number. It really, I think, so especially for Iron Rangers, we believe that robotics is a place for everyone. You don't have to have you don't have to be technical or mechanical with engineering. You don't have to have a previous knowledge of how to even write awards. We will take you in and we will teach you. So really, I guess what we do, I don't have a specific number, but I would say you want to have people that are really, really interested in helping the team succeed and in the awards. And however many people that is would be my answer.
So I'm sorry my video isn't working and or it's very choppy, so you're going to only hear me talk. But as a follow-up to this last question, I'm kind of asking it in a leading fashion. I know in your presentation you mentioned that you really work to involve the whole team. And so I guess my question is that um, because I personally believe that the chairman's is a whole team award, but there's going to be that core group that takes the leadership to really write it and put it and do the presentation. And so this is a question that I've struggled with my team when we've done chairmans, and I've heard others talk about, because sometimes they'll put one person to do all of it, or they'll put two people to do all of that. They'll either fail to involve the whole team, or they won't put enough folks on their core group so they ensure some continuity from year to year. So I wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
You can take this whenever you want it. You can take it if you want. You can take it if you want.
So, one of the biggest things I think, definitely don't have one person do all of your awards. It's an insane amount of work, especially if you're submitting for something more than just chairman's or just one award. If you're going for multiple, you need a big group of people. Um, um, for presentations, you want to have a core presenting group of people that work well together. So if you know that there's this group of 2 or 3 kids that are going to do really well in the chairman's presentation, you might say, hey, stick around in the pit and we're going to teach you some stuff you can do in the pit as well, and then have you talk to the judges that come around for pit interviews as well, because you're going to be great for that portion. For the chairman's writers, I think we had about 3 writers this year. We had one person take on the big essay chunk, and then we had 2 to 3 people divvy up the executive summaries. On top of those 3 people, we had additional 4 to 5 students who were proofreaders and editors. So you had, 3 or 4 people writing everything, but then we also had additional kids who may not have been the core writing group, the core proofreading and editing group. Oh, what about that cool thing we did that you might have forgotten to mention? How can we include that in here? Things like that. So, if you're counting everyone, our team had like 7 to 10 kids doing awards for us personally. It also depends on team size. If you are a huge team of like 50 kids, you probably have more resources and you can dedicate 12, 15 kids. And if you're a smaller team of only 10 to 15 students, maybe you only have 5 or 6 dedicated awards people, but you also need to have, again, that whole team component of, yes, these core people are doing your awards and they're helping you, but you want to have the whole team finding ways to assist as well. So if you can only have 4 or 5 kids writing, I mean, that's a lot of writing to do. Maybe ask someone else to proofread and take on that responsibility to kind of help delegate tasks out to the whole team.
One thing I know we did is we kind of split our team into 2 divisions, business and engineering. So what we ended up doing is we had some kids who were the writers of the awards, and they were mainly business, but they took their stuff to the engineers, and that's really the proof. Some of those proofreaders were engineers to say, well, you kind of really only included the superficial engineering stuff, but there's this really cool component that you might not have either known about or you didn't include it, and maybe we can include that somehow. And that really also helped to gel our team together and have that whole team inclusivity.
Thank you so much, and for your answers were very thorough and I think very explanatory in what I was looking for. So thank you for doing that. Jason, anything back? Any final words on your part?
Well, I just wanted to say again, it was amazing. Your contributions have been spot on today, and I think that um, this is going to be some great information that's going to be available and very important and impactful for our kids moving forward, for FRC, for chairmen specifically, and then of course FTC and FRC for Dean's List. And hopefully teams cross programs will take benefit in getting that Dean's List information. So with that, Iron Eagles, or I'm sorry, Iron Rangers, um, the I want to say for a second year team, y'all have found the secret sauce. Keep doing the amazing work that you're doing. I'm very proud of y'all. And have y'all decided if you're going to be able to come back for this season for Infinite
Yeah.
Recharge version 2?
So we will be competing this year in Infinite Recharge for 2021. So yeah, you can come find us at competition if you're going to be competing with us. And again, if you have any questions, of course, feel free to email us. I will also send the link to our website over to put in the description of this video. We are going to have this recording go up to our website as well as the slides that we presented with. And then any questions that anyone sends us and the questions that we answered here today, we are going to we're actually going to have a Word document that talks about the points that might not have been on the slides that we just mentioned verbally. So that will all be listed in a long Word document. That will be listed in a long Word document as well as any questions that were asked. So those questions we are going to go ahead and just have at the bottom of that Word document. So if you need any last minute feedback, you can always check there or you can email us and we will be adding everything that we can to our website and finding more resources. So
Sounds
yeah.
good. Well,
Thank you guys very much.
yep. To close everything out, we've spent an hour with the Iron Rangers out of Spring Branch, Texas. Some proud Texans, Team 7621, and as you can tell from their team number, it is a fairly rookie team. Amazing work, ladies, and I will come and see you this year at your competition and just say hi. The best of luck, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.